So the 2010 King of the Ring is done and dusted. The show was last night, 3-hour special edition of Raw, and all in all, it was a fair show. It wasn't the best King of the Ring of all time, but it was enjoyable to say the least. And it was nice to see the King of the Ring actually come back and go from quarterfinals to the final all in one night, which has been lacking in a lot of recent King of the Ring tournaments. The last time they did, I remember them doing that, having the whole thing in one night. It's 10 years ago, at the 2010 King of the Ring. But the show started with Alex Riley coming out, talking a bit about. It wasn't a long segment. He was out on the top of the stage talking for about 2 minutes. There was that, and then they had the first match of the night, which I don't even know what to say. This match was, when I saw the brackets come out for the card a couple of hours before the show began, I said immediately to myself, I said this was going to be the match of the card, the match of the entire show, and I was right. Daniel Bryan versus Alberto Rio was the match of the night, by a mile. It was given time. These two went out there and actually had a wrestling match, which has been lacking, which was actually quite lacking throughout most of the tournament. I think it was the only pure wrestling match of the night. I think everything else was a lot of big moves and a lot of hard hitting and a lot of I don't know if I call that wrestling. Alberto Del Rio and Daniel Bryan, they went about 20 minutes, probably about 20 minutes. No, it wasn't that long. They went 10 minutes or so, and it was a very, very, very good match. I was surprised it opened the show. I opened the show with the best match, but what can you do? This was definitely the best match of the show. Del Rio got the win with his little armbar after Daniel Bryan did his little diving, his little flying press thing where he runs through the ropes and he drives his shoulder into the barricade. And Del Rio capitalized, got the armbar locked in, and Daniel Bryan tapped out pretty quickly. Second match of the night was Morrison versus Cody Rhodes, which wasn't exactly. I wasn't expecting a lot from this match, and obviously it wasn't that. It was never going to be a classic pure wrestling match. But these two didn't go out there. They didn't go out there and half-ass it. I think they gave a decent count on themselves, and it was a fair match. It was pretty good. Well, it was an entertaining match. I'd go as far as to say it was entertaining, to say the least. And John Morrison picked up the win with this little flying knee thing, whatever he calls it. I don't know. It hasn't got a name yet. The commentators don't have a name for it, so I don't have a name for it. Then we had the worst match of the night, and we had a 6 Divas tag team match late at night, and this was the worst match of the night. It wasn't even a match. It was 2 people hitting each other for a bit, and then a count out. I had a feeling. I hoped that they were going to have somebody go over the other. I couldn't see Ezekiel Jackson going through, but at the same time, I couldn't see how Drew McIntyre was going to go over Ezekiel unless it was a count out or a disqualification or something. And I couldn't see Ezekiel getting disqualified. I couldn't see Drew getting a count out victory. So there was always that doubt in the back of my mind that this was going to be a double count out, and I hoped it wouldn't be, but we all know WWE. It turned out it was, and that meant the winner of the next, it was a pathetic match, it was a joke, which meant that the winner of the Sheamus Kofi Kingston match would be through to the final. They would get a bye through to the final. So the Sheamus match, watching Sheamus versus Kofi Kingston, it was a very, very interesting match. I think this was probably the second best match of the night. Close to the final, I'd say. But this was a good match. Kofi looked strong for a long period, and then Sheamus came back at the end and got the victory anyway. So, but yeah, Sheamus went over, and that meant he was through to the final. So he would face the winner of Alberto Del Rio and John Morrison. And in that match was another good match. We had quite a few good matches. Not very many great. I'd say Daniel Bryan versus Alberto Del Rio was a great match. Other than that, I think we had good matches. Nothing too great, but what can you expect from WWE on a Raw taping? On a live Raw even. But they went out there and they gave a decent account of themselves again. With Rey Mysterio coming out in Del Rio's car, distracting Del Rio. John Morrison gets the knee to the face and advances to the final. As I kind of expected him to. I kind of expected that Morrison versus Sheamus would be the final. And in the final, which was another good match, I'm not probably joint second best match of the night. I'd say the Kofi match and the Morrison match for Sheamus were the two second best matches of the night. It was another. It was probably a little bit better than the match they had at Survivor Series, in the sense that it had more build to the finish. Whereas I feel that Survivor Series, the finish for their match just came out of the blue. I think the finish to this match was sort of slowly built up to, and I think people kind of expected that after Sheamus hit the boot, the bro kick, that would be it. And then he just picked him up, hit him with the high cross. 1, 2, 3. Sheamus is your new King of the Ring. I predicted this, but what can you do? I don't like the idea of Sheamus as King of the Ring, because it opens up the door for King of the Ring versus King of Kings. I don't want Triple H to come back ever. I don't like Triple H as a wrestler. I do not think he's a good wrestler, but that's just my opinion. I think John Morrison needed it more. I think Kofi could have done with it. I think Del Rio would have boosted him. Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, all those people I think needed it more than Sheamus did. But I guess Sheamus was sort of starting to lose momentum, and I think it makes sense to have Morrison go with Sheamus go with Morrison. It sort of sets up a third rubber match, whatever it is, whether it'll be a stipulation match to sort of close out this little rivalry, and hopefully that they can produce another decent match. Maybe even push towards a good match. Maybe push towards a great match. Who knows? As far as the rest of the show went, there was some nice booking. With Truth came out and cut a stupid promo saying that he was going to challenge the Nexus. Michael McGillicuddy went to come out. Then he got jumped by who they made out to be John Cena. But they didn't actually show, they just showed his little wristband, his legs, kicking McGillicuddy. And I think that would have been nice if what hadn't happened afterwards had happened. Because Cena came down with a ticket. I read somewhere that he was going to be at the Raw. And he came down and he sat in the front row. And during a tag team match where Justin Gabriel and Heath Slater went up against Mark Henry and Yoshi Tatsu and distracted them, and Mark Henry hit the World's Strongest Slam on Heath Slater. And then John Cena jumped the barricade and hit Slater with an attitude adjustment through the announcer's table. I think that kind of defeated the purpose of having the camera not be on him when the attack happened. When he jumped Michael McGillicuddy. Because I think if they'd have had that and that been it, then that would have worked. But who knows? Then they had another bit where Nexus cornered John Cena, and then loads of superstars attacked. Basically, John Cena said that Nexus has more than just him as an enemy. That they basically pissed off the whole locker room at one point or another, and that they're going to be taken down. Yada yada yada. And then and what was quite this, I think that the little bit with Gabriel looked quite good, where he threw him, and his head crashed through a car window, and then he gave him the attitude adjustment on the windshield. I think that was quite good. Elsewhere in the show, we had the Miz Championship celebration, which was cut off by Jerry Lawler, who was 61 yesterday. So happy birthday to him. He got a title match, a TLC match. And to be honest, my first thought was, at least he's working with somebody who's a better worker than Randy Orton. And it's bad when you think a 61-year-old man, 61 years, is a better worker than one of your top main eventers. But they had their match, and it closed out the show. It was a good match. It was a good TLC match, considering. I don't think it made The Miz look strong, and I'll talk more about that in a later video, because I have my own personal idea on how I think Miz should be booked to look strong as WWE Champion, and I will be starting from this King of the Ring show, so look out for that. But I mean, he had to get help from Riley and Cole, and I just think he looked generally stupid. Thank God. The only good thing about that the little closing to the show was CM Punk on commentary by himself, and he still sounded great. He was better by himself than Cole and Lawler combined. That says a lot about how shitty WWE's commentators are. When one guy can do a better job than two. Unbelievable. But yeah, all around this was a fair show. I'm probably going to put star ratings in the bottom for each match. But yeah, all around it was a good show. I'd check it out. It was entertaining. It's worth a watch, definitely. It was an alright Raw. So Sheamus is your king. Miz remains WWE Champion.